powers are most pronounced. And then in the middle, there's kind of a gray area. This will allow other deities to have holy warriors, those that for which it is appropriate. But that said, you'll be able to be a paladin of really any god, but in some cases it might be rare. So if you're familiar with our campaign setting, there aren't going to be an awful lot of paladins of, say, Shelyn, but there might be some. If you're a paladin of Shelyn wearing polished silver armor covered in roses, that's a fun, interesting character, right? And running around,
That sounds really nice.
Yeah. I mean, you can do some fun things with that. We wanted to make sure that was an option, but not mandatory. So that's going to be one of the big things we do here. You're going to probably find a host of new feats. Probably a fair number of prestige classes, but mind you, we kind of believe very firmly that most of you probably have enough feats and prestige classes to play until the end of your days. So we're not going to heavily focus on those, but we are going to present the ones that help us round out the world. So instead of producing a splat book every month or every other month, we're going to kind of save it all up for one meaty book that gives you everything you need. That's not to say we won't revisit the topics again, but this is going to be our definitive look at a lot of these topics beyond the core book. What else is going to be in this book? Well, there's going to be 6 new base classes. At GenCon Indy, we had a seminar in which we talked about 4 of those base classes. I'm going to give you some of that information again for those of you who may have missed it. And then I'm going to talk about the 2 new ones that have been unannounced until this show. Let me first start out by saying that as base classes, these are not core classes. Now, they're 1 to 20 level classes, but we're going to be taking a different assumption with them. The classes in the core rulebook are core classes. It is our assumption that game worlds have these classes. You will find these characters with some frequency, right? If you go to the local temple, you're going to find clerics. You might find some paladins. If you go to the militia, you're going to find fighters, maybe even a barbarian or 2 and rangers. When it comes to base classes, they functionally work the same way. They go 1 to 20. They have all the same things. But we're going to be assuming that in game world, they are a bit more rare. This allows us to kind of tinker with some interesting concepts or do something that's a bit more outlandish without having to rewrite every game world to suddenly make room for alchemists in every town. Speaking of which, one of the first base classes that I'm going to talk about is the alchemist. The alchemist is going to be a class that is primarily arcane based, but I know what you're all thinking. This is a stodgy guy who sits in a laboratory with a big alchemist kit and makes little potions. Take that idea, throw it away, and think more along the lines of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the guy who drinks things and kind of grows one giant mutant arm and goes and punches people to death with it. A guy who brews up crazy concoctions in the morning and throws them at the feet of his enemy and they burst into flames. Things like that. It's going to work similarly to spells in that he's going to prepare his brews in the morning. He's going to sit in the corner and mix together powders and things from a million different little pouches. He's going to drink some of them and do things with them. Ointments and oozes and slimes and powders and drinks and Red Bulls and that's going to be his shtick. So the class is going to be a little bit more melee focused for an arcane spellcaster. It'll probably end up having a 3/4 base attack progression, kind of like the cleric, and we'll be channeling spells and abilities into kind of use activated items. Now, at first, it's going to be a class that can only use them itself. But later on, it's going to gain the ability to start giving them to others, right? Like, the fighter's like, we're going into the fight, and the crazy kind of cockeyed guy's like, drink this! And the fighter's like, I don't know, I'm a stalwart hero. No, it'll make you strong. All right. So that's going to be the alchemist. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that class. Some of the stuff started to come together, and we think you guys are going to like it a lot. One of the next classes I'm going to talk about is the Oracle. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the Oracle for a little bit later. Let me talk about the Cavalier. The Cavalier is going to be a martial class, and Cavalier traditionally means mounted combatant, basically. But we're going to be taking a bit of a broader look at this class. And while, you know, horse skills are going to be important, I think we all understand that you can't take a horse with you on every adventure. So, well, you can try. The Cavalier class is going to be kind of the braggart of the battlefield. It's kind of like a bard, but more of a jerk. In that he yells at people and shouts down people and challenges other people to fights, and he'll help boost the party, but generally only one person, like, get up there, you sluggard, you know.
Like the knight from Player's Handbook 2 from Wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some conceptual similarities, but rules-wise, we're going to be taking it in some different directions.
No D12.
No. No, only the barbarian makes the D12 useful.
Still.
So that's kind of what the Cavalier's focus is going to be. His focus is going to be, he's going to be primarily a melee class. He's not going to have really, you know, magic or anything like that. He's going to be a bit more skill focused. You know, for a melee class, he's going to have a fair number of skill points with a fair number of charisma-based skills. Charisma is going to be an important attribute for the Cavalier because that's where he's going to draw a lot of his kind of insulting and boosting abilities.
Like a martial-focused bard or something?
Kind of, yeah. That's kind of the concept we're going with. It's still kind of coming together, but that's what we're aiming for. And we'll see how it comes together. One thing I do want to mention about all of these, by the way, is that all 6 of these base classes are going to go through an open playtest just like the beta. So we're going to release them before the book comes out. Within the next few months, you'll probably start seeing them. We're going to have special message boards set up for them. We're going to invite you to use them in your games and give us feedback. We thought that was very successful with beta, making the final game, and we want to continue it. We probably won't do that with every aspect of the book because it's going to be kind of a big book, and I'm not sure we have time to go through all of it. But generally speaking, you know, when it comes to feats, hey, everyone playtest this one feat. That's kind of a really dull playtest. But classes, that's a whole different ballgame. So yeah, just thought I'd make sure to mention that. So that's the Cavalier. Let's see, oh, yeah, there it is. The Summoner. The next class I want to talk about is the Summoner, and I should start that out by saying the Summoner is probably a temporary name because it's also the name of a specialist wizard, so we're probably going to be looking at something different for this class. But right now, it fits our concept. The Summoner is going to be another arcane class that is an arcane pet class. So, like the Druid is a divine pet class, the Summoner is going to be an arcane pet class. And what that means is that if you've ever wanted to play the character that builds monsters, the Summoner is going to be the class for you. If you ever asked Mommy or Daddy where owlbears came from, they would tell you the story of Summoners. This guy is going to be the guy who builds a monster. So unlike how Animal Companions work, where you kind of apply a flat template to the progression, the Summoner is going to be a class that picks and chooses what abilities to add to the monster. So if you want an 8-tentacled, beaky, feather-covered, slimy, acid-spitting horror, eventually you're going to be able to build it with the Summoner. Alternatively, if you want to use the Summoner's abilities to actually build one of the existing monsters, you're going to be able to do that too. Now, I call it a Summoner, and one of the reasons why it's probably going to get a name change is we're going to be relatively flexible in where this monster comes from. In that, your Summoner might be the type who builds the monster using parts of other monsters, kind of like a monster building Frankenstein. Or it could be a summoner who conjures his monster from another plane using like raw abyssal soup to form into this nightmarish horror.